Sorry about that. The recording software cut out, so I'll continue. So Mineta and Denki would be asking Todoroki quite pervertive questions, as Todoroki would just not answer altogether, and the girls were asking Shell how that was possible. Shell the same questions, and Shell just being quiet the entire time. She's currently dying from embarrassment. And Shell then picks up the egg and picks up Shoto and just walks off. And as that happens, we then cut to the final day, where the test of courage, and everybody goes through it, and the League of Villains ends up attacking. Now at this time, Shell gave her egg to the Wild Pussycats to protect it, and once the League of Villains do have information on that, since I'm just going to say, I'm not going to expose who the traitor is, but I think you know who it is at this point. So the League of Villains, then Dabi ends up finding the egg, and once they get back to the opening, once Shell saved Kota from Muscular, they then give Shell an ultimatum: come with them and be taken back to Altera, or her egg gets torched. Now, Shell agrees to go with the League of Villains, as Dabi then rolls the egg back to the Pro Heroes, as Shell then ends up being captured by the League of Villains. And in this one, since Momo didn't put the tracker on the Nomus, but Shell did have a tracker which Nezu had access to, because Altera did put a tracker in her, and Altera had lost access to that tracker. So Nezu pinpoints her location, and they find the League of Villains base, where the League of Villains are, and once they get there, they find an Altera ship with its destination set to planet 4546b. As once they, before they could hand Shell over, All Might then knocks out all the members of the League of Villains except for Shigaraki and Kurogiri, and Snipe takes out all the Altera members that were there. As once that happens, All For One ends up showing up, and their fight goes as it did in canon, with All Might losing his quirk, and All For One being taken to Tartarus. And Altera is now currently on very thin ice right now with the government, so essentially one more slip up and Altera could be shut down for good. So they're planning to be a bit more sneaky with their tactics this time. So once that happens, we'll cut forward a couple days later to where Shell's egg starts moving, and Todoroki and Shell are currently in a panic. Like, panicking right now. Now, Shell, after the egg basically, like, cracks open, if you know what, you guys can tell me what gender you want the child to be, and you can give me a name for it as well. So after that incident, Shell and Todoroki essentially start looking after the child, but they're still doing their hero work. So they're currently doing that. So like when they're doing their internships to their second internships with the members of the Big Three, if you want to know who won the fight between Mirio and Class 1A, it was still Mirio, as in canon, because even though Shell has one for all, and she is an adept predator, she still can't fight something that can phase through someone who can phase through objects. So after that happens, and they go to their second internships, Shell ends up giving her child to Nether to look after while she's at her internships. So Todoroki and Shell go to their internships. Actually, no, hold on. The provisional license exam, I'll skip that. Yeah. Unlike in canon, Shell and Todoroki do, and Shell does get her license, but unlike in canon, Todoroki also gets his provisional hero license. So that goes as well as it does, and Toga does collect a bit more information, since noting after Shell has had her child, she is a lot more cautious. So after they do, then they go to their internships, and here we go into the overhaul arc. So and Eri ends up bumping into Shell with her looking down and noticing her little girl, and asks if she's alright, and notices all the bandages that are wrapped around her. And then Overhaul ends up walking out the alley saying that, that's my daughter, would you mind giving her back? And Shell picks up a scent of fear from Eri, and the scent of anger from Overhaul. And since she's had a kid, she does know she can smell whenever she's around her kid, she can always smell the similarities between the child and the parent. But with Eri and Overhaul, she smells no similarities whatsoever. And she then hands Eri over to Mirio and tells him to contact Third-Eye right now. This guy is Overhaul. As Mirio then runs off, as Shell then begins to battle with Overhaul. With Overhaul trying to lay his hands on her, but she manages to avoid all the attacks. And once all the pro heroes show up, Overhaul and his gang are then taken into custody, since all the members of the I think it was the Five Fingers, I don't remember, were captured as well. So, and in this timeline, Nai is still alive, and they're discussing who Eri should stay with, as Shell pipes up saying that I can look after her, as everybody would be a bit wary at first, but then Nezu pipes up stating that she did already save a child, and she already is looking after one. So Nezu comes in clutch here to help her, and essentially Eri is then looked after by Shell. And I'll just leave this second half off here. And if you enjoy this, please remember to like, and I will see you guys next time.